The lights inside London's Royal Festival Hall blaze brighter than ever. And then, without warning, the entire atmosphere shifts. Conversations die mid-sentence. Cameras swing. Hearts race. After 3 long years away, Princess Catherine steps onto the BAFTAs red carpet, radiant, composed, and unstoppable. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Critics stare in disbelief, and even seasoned A-listers seem momentarily eclipsed. So, was this a carefully timed royal strategy? A personal triumph after private hardship? Or a bold message to a monarchy under pressure? Let's find out. A return. No one was certain would happen. The mood outside London's Royal Festival Hall subtly changed, long before any official announcement confirmed it. Security presence increased without explanation. Movements became sharper, more deliberate. Staff members adjusted earpieces and straightened their posture. Guests who had been chatting casually began glancing toward the entrance, sensing that something significant was about to unfold. For weeks, uncertainty had surrounded whether the Princess of Wales would attend the 2026 BAFTA Awards at all. Her name had not been prominently confirmed. There had been no grand declaration from Kensington Palace. After everything she had faced over the past year, many quietly assumed this evening might pass without her. Then it happened. After 3 years away from the BAFTAs, Princess Catherine stepped back onto the red carpet beside Prince William. The last time they had appeared together at the ceremony was in 2023. Since then, her cancer diagnosis, months of treatment, and a long period of recovery have kept her away from major public engagements. Each absence carried visible weight. Each carefully worded update fueled speculation. Public curiosity grew in the vacuum of information. And so, when she emerged from the car that evening, poised and composed, the reaction was immediate and impossible to ignore. A visible ripple moved through the crowd. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Cameras shifted in unison as if choreographed. Even seasoned photographers, accustomed to glamour, celebrity, and surprise appearances, seemed momentarily startled. This was no ordinary arrival designed purely for fashion headlines or tabloid flashes. The energy is transformed in seconds. What had been a prestigious film ceremony instantly felt like a defining royal moment, one layered with emotion and quiet resilience. There was no dramatic pause for extended interviews, no lingering poses under the flashing lights. The Prince and Princess of Wales moved with quiet focus, heading directly inside the Royal Festival Hall. That decision alone spoke volumes. It suggested an intention, discipline, a shared understanding that the evening was larger than a spectacle. The message was subtle but powerful. This was about commitment, not performance. Yet the symbolism was unmistakable. Her return was not simply about attending an awards ceremony connected to British cinema. It carried emotional depth that transcended film and fashion. Over the past year, updates about her health had been measured and cautious. Public appearances had been rare and carefully considered. Every outing mattered. Every step was interpreted. And here she was, standing confidently under the bright lights of one of Britain's most high-profile cultural events, fulfilling a role she had temporarily stepped back from, but never relinquished. Prince William remained steady at her side, his expression composed and supportive. His presence reinforced continuity and stability within the institution. But it was Catherine's reappearance that undeniably dominated the atmosphere. Observers later described the moment as electric, charged with a mixture of relief, admiration, and renewed optimism. It felt less like a routine engagement and more like a quiet turning point. In that instant, the narrative surrounding the Princess of Wales shifted. She was no longer defined by absence, illness, or recovery. She was present, visible, strong. The ceremony had not even begun, yet the night already belonged to her, and the deeper meaning of that return was only beginning to unfold before a watching nation. Now, what happens when absence turns to power, and the Princess of Wales silently reclaims the show before the ceremony begins. Stay with us. The gown that commanded the spotlight. If her arrival shifted the mood of the evening, what she wore sealed the moment. As Catherine, Princess of Wales, moved beneath the bright lights of the red carpet at the British Academy Film Awards, the soft blush tones of her gown seemed to glow against the evening sky. The design was instantly recognizable to dedicated royal watchers. It was a flowing Gucci creation first worn in 2019, now brought back to life with renewed meaning. In a world driven by constant reinvention, her decision to re-wear the gown carried quiet power. It reflected continuity, stability, and a commitment to thoughtful fashion rather than excess. The dress itself was a study in balance. Its delicate mauve-pink shade projected warmth rather than spectacle. A gently cinched waist created elegant structure, while the V-neck bodice framed her silhouette with refined simplicity. The fabric flowed effortlessly to the floor, moving with each step in a way that felt almost weightless. There was no harsh drama in the design, no overpowering embellishment competing for attention. Instead, it relied on proportion, precision, and confidence. The craftsmanship spoke softly but clearly, allowing her presence to remain the focal point. She paired the gown with a burgundy velvet clutch and matching heels, details that added depth without distracting from the softness of the dress. Standing beside her, Prince William mirrored that same burgundy tone in his velvet dinner jacket, worn with a crisp white shirt and classic black bow tie. The coordination was subtle, yet unmistakable. It created a visual harmony between them, reinforcing unity without appearing staged. Together, they looked polished, composed, and intentional, embodying a partnership that has matured under public scrutiny. Fashion commentators have often noted that the BAFTAs are where the Princess of Wales truly excels on the red carpet. Unlike more experimental events, this ceremony allows her signature style to shine. Clean lines, thoughtful tailoring, understated elegance. The result is never loud, yet always commanding. On this night, that familiar formula felt especially meaningful. There was reassurance in its restraint, confidence in its clarity. She did not chase attention. Attention followed her. The choice also invited comparison to her last BAFTA appearance in 2023, when she wore a striking white Alexander McQueen gown paired with dramatic black opera gloves. That look had sparked widespread conversation for its bold contrast and modern edge. In contrast, the 2026 appearance leaned into softness and reassurance. Where the white gown had projected sharp confidence and daring contrast, the blush Gucci dress suggested grace after endurance, strength expressed through calm rather than spectacle. By revisiting a gown from 2019, she subtly connected past and present. It was not simply about sustainability, though that message was clear and consistent with her broader approach to public life. It was about returning to a global stage without needing to reinvent herself. The silhouette remained timeless. The styling evolved gently. The presence felt stronger. Under the cameras, surrounded by international stars and industry icons, it became evident that this was more than an outfit choice. The gown told a story of resilience, of measured strength, of a woman stepping back into her role with composure rather than noise. And as flashes continued to light the red carpet, it was clear that the night was unfolding exactly as intended, defined not by extravagance, but by assurance. And how did diamonds beneath relentless cameras transform silent resilience into a dynasty-defining return no one saw coming? Keep watching. Diamonds, dynasty, and a legacy reclaimed. If the gown established elegance, the jewelry transformed the moment into something far more historic. As cameras zoomed closer, the brilliance at Princess Catherine's ears and wrist began to tell a deeper story. She was wearing the Greville chandelier earrings, dazzling diamond drops originally gifted to the future Queen Elizabeth II upon her marriage to Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Their cascading design framed Catherine's face with unmistakable radiance. Seasoned royal observers recognized them instantly. These were not simply beautiful stones. They were part of a carefully preserved royal collection, worn only on the most significant occasions. Yet it was the piece at her wrist that carried even greater weight. Encircling her arm was the extraordinary Queen Mary choker bracelet, an Art Deco masterpiece dating back to the 1920s. The jewel was originally commissioned for Mary of Teck, wife of King George V. Designed with striking geometric diamond bars, the piece captured the glamour of the interwar period while retaining a surprisingly modern edge. Its structure blurs the line between necklace and bracelet. Historically, it was famously worn as a choker in portraits of Queen Mary, sitting high at the neck in dramatic fashion. In later decades, however, it appeared more often on the wrist, creating an air of mystery about its original intent. After Queen Mary died in 1953, the jewel seemed to vanish from public view. For more than 2 decades, it remained hidden from the spotlight, tucked away in the royal vaults. Then it resurfaced on the wrist of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, during portraits celebrating her 75th birthday. Following her passing in 2002, the bracelet entered the collection of Queen Elizabeth II, further cementing its place in royal continuity. Over the past decade, Catherine has emerged as the bracelet's most prominent modern wearer, giving it a renewed chapter in its long history. She first introduced it to a global audience at the Chinese State Banquet in 2015, pairing it memorably with a red gown and the lotus flower tiara. The image from that evening quickly became iconic. The bracelet appeared again at a charity gala in 2016, during the Paris state visit in 2017, and at the Diplomatic Corps reception at Buckingham Palace in 2018. Each appearance was carefully chosen, reserved for moments of high ceremonial importance. After several years out of sight, the piece resurfaced once more at the Royal Variety performance, signaling a quiet return of historic jewels to the public stage. Its presence at the 2026 BAFTAs therefore carried unmistakable symbolism. This was not simply about adornment or sparkle beneath the lights of the Royal Festival Hall. It was a deliberate visual link connecting generations of royal women. From Queen Mary to Queen Elizabeth II, and now to Catherine, Princess of Wales, the bracelet has traveled through eras of change while maintaining its identity. The Greville earrings and the Queen Mary bracelet together elevated her appearance beyond fashion. They placed her firmly within a lineage that spans nearly a century of royal history. Under the flash of cameras and the gaze of a global audience, the message was subtle yet powerful. This was not accessorizing, it was an inheritance. So could those heirloom jewels signal inheritance, not elegance, as uncertainty tightened its grip around the monarchy's fragile future. Stepping forward, in a week of uncertainty, the historic jewels glittered beneath the bright chandeliers, catching flashes from 100 cameras. But beyond the elegance and symbolism, the timing of this appearance carried unusual weight. Every diamond, every carefully chosen detail seemed to reflect not only tradition, but calculation. This was not merely another night of glamour on Britain's cultural calendar. It was a moment arriving in the middle of turbulence. In the days leading up to the 2026 BAFTAs, headlines had been dominated by troubling developments surrounding Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Reports of his arrest reignited scrutiny around the wider royal family, drawing intense media attention and renewed public debate. Questions resurfaced about accountability, about judgment, about the monarchy's ability to withstand yet another reputational storm. Commentators filled television panels with speculation. Newspaper columns dissected possible consequences. The institution once again found itself navigating uncomfortable conversations in full public view, with little shelter from the glare. It was against this unsettled backdrop that the Prince and Princess of Wales arrived at London's Royal Festival Hall. Their presence felt deliberate, even strategic. It was not simply about celebrating British film or fulfilling ceremonial duties on a long-standing calendar commitment. It was about visibility at a moment when visibility mattered most. With cameras trained on them from every conceivable angle, their composure communicated as powerfully as any carefully drafted statement ever could. Silence, in this case, was not absence. It was message. Observers quickly noted the subtle details that unfolded in seconds but lingered in memory. A brief exchanged glance before stepping onto the carpet. A quiet word shared, almost imperceptible beneath the applause. A reassuring touch at the small of the back as they moved forward. None of it theatrical, none of it exaggerated for effect. Yet together, those small gestures projected steadiness. They appeared aligned, focused, and calm in a week defined by noise. Prince William, who has served as president of BAFTA since 2010, moved with practiced confidence, greeting guests and acknowledging industry figures with ease. His role at the ceremony was familiar territory, and he occupied it without hesitation. Catherine remained poised at his side, her expression warm yet measured, offering smiles that felt genuine but controlled. There was no hint of distraction, no visible strain. Instead, they presented a united front that contrasted sharply with the turbulence dominating headlines elsewhere. The symbolism was difficult to ignore. At a time when conversations about the monarchy's relevance and accountability were once again intensifying, the future king and queen stepped into one of Britain's most high-profile cultural events without retreating from public view. Their attendance suggested continuity. It implied that while extended members of the family might generate controversy, the central working core remained steady and committed to duty. Inside the hall, the atmosphere evolved from curiosity to reassurance. The initial gasp that greeted Catherine's arrival softened into something more grounded. She was not only back on the red carpet, she was visibly engaged in active public service during a week when leadership and stability were under the microscope. This was not a loud declaration of resilience. It was quieter, more controlled, and arguably more strategic than that. By appearing together, composed and unshaken, they offered an image of calm amid noise. The message was subtle yet unmistakable. The monarchy's future leadership was present, engaged, and moving forward despite the distractions surrounding it. As the evening progressed, it became increasingly clear that this appearance was layered with meaning. Beneath the glamour, beneath the history woven into diamonds and silk, there was resolve. The night was no longer solely about film or fashion. It had become a moment of reassurance in uncertain days, and the deeper implications of that carefully calibrated statement were still unfolding in real time. But how did glittering applause mask a calculated message of resolve, quietly reshaping royal certainty in uncertain times? Stay tuned. Duty behind the applause. The symbolism outside the Royal Festival Hall was powerful, but what happened inside carried equal weight. There were no pauses for red carpet interviews, no extended moments for commentary. After their brief walk past the cameras, the Prince and Princess of Wales moved directly into the heart of the ceremony. The decision felt intentional. The focus was not on spectacle, but on purpose. Inside the hall, they were welcomed by filmmakers, actors, producers, and leading figures from across the British film industry. Conversations replaced camera flashes. Handshakes replaced headlines. The BAFTAs have long stood as one of Britain's most important cultural events, often compared to the Oscars in stature, and their presence reinforced a long-standing relationship between the royal household and the creative arts. Prince William has attended the ceremony 8 times over the years, navigating both celebratory and deeply emotional circumstances. In 2021, he appeared at the BAFTAs just one day after the death of Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. That moment had been marked by visible gravity, as the ceremony opened with tributes to his grandfather. His attendance under those circumstances underscored a sense of duty that often places public responsibility above private grief. The 2026 appearance carried its own layered meaning. The couple had missed the previous year's ceremony, a decision that drew attention at the time. Family priorities were part of that absence. School holidays for their children, Prince George of Wales, Princess Charlotte of Wales, and Prince Louis of Wales, coincided with the event. At the same time, Catherine was continuing her recovery following surgery and cancer treatment. The combination of personal health and parental responsibility shaped their choice to step back. That context made this return feel deliberate and measured rather than automatic. It was not about maintaining tradition for its own sake. It was about timing, readiness, and balance. As they took their seats and engaged with nominees and industry leaders, their role became clearer. They were not simply high-profile attendees adding glamour to the evening. They were cultural patrons supporting British storytelling, creativity, and global influence. The arts have long been woven into the fabric of national identity, and the royal presence at events like the BAFTAs reflects that connection. Observers noted the ease with which Catherine interacted with guests. There was attentiveness in her expressions, warmth in brief exchanges. William mirrored that engagement, leaning into conversations with filmmakers whose work shapes international perceptions of Britain. Their presence signaled investment in the creative sector at a time when the industry faces evolving challenges. Within the grand auditorium of the Royal Festival Hall, applause echoed against sweeping balconies and dramatic lighting. Yet amid the celebration of cinematic achievement, there was also a quieter narrative unfolding. After a year defined by health battles, family priorities, and public scrutiny, the Prince and Princess of Wales were visibly resuming a rhythm of service. The red carpet moment had captured headlines. Inside, however, the deeper purpose emerged. This was about continuity of engagement with British culture. It was about demonstrating that even during periods of personal difficulty, public commitment remains intact. And as the ceremony progressed, their steady presence suggested that this return marked more than a single evening's appearance. And just beneath glittering headlines, was this red carpet return about resilience or a monarchy quietly redefining strength? Stay glued. Strength beneath the spotlight. As the ceremony unfolded inside the Royal Festival Hall, applause and celebration filled the space. Yet behind the composed smile and effortless poise was a far more personal story, one that had quietly shaped the past year of Princess Catherine's life. Her cancer diagnosis had come as a profound shock. What followed were months of treatment, recovery, and necessary withdrawal from public engagements. Appearances became rare. Updates were carefully measured. Each step forward was taken privately, away from cameras and ceremony. For a figure whose life is often lived in the public eye, that absence felt significant. It created a silence that was both protective and deeply human. Surgery and treatment required strength that few fully witnessed. During that period, the rhythm of royal duties slowed. Family life understandably took priority. Prince George of Wales, Princess Charlotte of Wales, and Prince Louis of Wales remained at the center of her focus. The balance between motherhood and recovery became paramount, shaping decisions about public commitments. That context made her presence at the 2026 BAFTAs more than symbolic. It was personal. Observers could not help but notice subtle signs of renewal. Her chestnut hair appeared slightly lighter, styled in fuller, glossy waves that cascaded over one shoulder. There was a softness to her complexion, a gentle sun-kissed warmth that sparked quiet speculation that the Wales family may have recently taken a warm weather holiday during the children's school break. Nothing dramatic, nothing announced, just a hint of restoration. The contrast was striking. In earlier months, public glimpses of her had carried the visible weight of recovery. Now, standing beneath the lights of the Royal Festival Hall, there was a renewed vitality. The transformation was not about dramatic change, it was about quiet resilience. The glow seemed to reflect regained strength rather than cosmetic effort. What made the moment powerful was not simply that she had returned to public duty. It was the manner of that return. There was no theatrical declaration of triumph, no overt acknowledgement of hardship. Instead, there was steadiness, grace, a sense of forward movement without fanfare. For many watching, the image resonated deeply. Illness is an experience that touches countless families. Recovery is rarely linear. By stepping back into one of Britain's most visible cultural events after months of treatment, Catherine embodied a narrative that felt both royal and relatable. She did not erase the difficulty of the past year. She stood as evidence that endurance can coexist with elegance. The BAFTAs are often described as glamorous, even dazzling. Yet on this night, the deeper story was about resilience carried quietly beneath silk and diamonds. The woman who had once withdrawn from the spotlight for necessary healing now stood firmly within it again. And as the evening continued, it became clear that this appearance was not merely about resuming duty. It was about reclaiming strength on her own terms. So what untold strength hid behind silk and diamonds, redefining resilience while the world only glimpsed glamour on the BAFTA stage? A moment that echoed beyond the cameras. As the evening progressed and awards were handed out inside London's Royal Festival Hall, it became increasingly clear that this night would be remembered for more than cinematic achievement. The BAFTAs have long been regarded as the British equivalent of the Oscars, one of the most prestigious events in the global film calendar outside Hollywood. Directors, actors, and producers from across the world gather here, aware that recognition on this stage carries international weight. And yet, even among celebrated A-list stars and acclaimed filmmakers, the arrival of the Princess of Wales dominated headlines. The ceremony itself dazzled as expected. Bright stage lights swept across the auditorium. Applause echoed from the upper balconies. Acceptance speeches drew laughter and emotion in equal measure. But outside the scripted presentations and polished performances, another narrative had quietly taken center stage. Princess Catherine's return after 3 years away from the BAFTAs was not treated as a routine royal engagement. It was interpreted as a milestone. Her last joint appearance at the ceremony with Prince William had been in 2023. Since then, her cancer diagnosis, treatment, and recovery had reshaped the rhythm of her public life. The months that followed were defined by absence and necessary privacy. In that context, stepping back into one of Britain's most visible cultural events signaled more than a scheduling choice. It signaled visibility. In recent years, the monarchy has faced intensified scrutiny. Public expectations are evolving. Every appearance, every decision is analyzed through multiple lenses. Against that backdrop, Catherine's poised re-emergence suggested a careful balancing of tradition and modern reality. She did not seek spectacle. She did not overshadow the event with overt statements. Instead, she embodied quiet assurance. That quiet strength carried significance. As the future queen, her role extends beyond ceremonial presence. She represents continuity, stability, and adaptability within an institution navigating changing public attitudes. By appearing at the 2026 BAFTAs, she reaffirmed her place within that evolving landscape. There was also something deeply human in the response she received. The applause was not merely for fashion or historic jewels. It reflected recognition of endurance. Many watching understood the weight of returning to public life after illness. The elegance on display was layered with experience. Beneath the polished exterior was a story of perseverance. Even seasoned commentators observed that the royal arrival shifted the tone of the evening. It reminded audiences that the BAFTAs are not only a celebration of film, but also a reflection of Britain's cultural identity. The presence of the Prince and Princess of Wales reinforced that connection between creative achievement and national heritage. Throughout the night, Catherine's composure never wavered. She moved through conversations with warmth. She listened attentively. She projected calm. In doing so, she offered something subtle, yet powerful. In a period marked by uncertainty and heightened scrutiny, she presented steadiness. By the time the final awards were announced, the larger meaning of her return had settled into public consciousness. This was not simply a red carpet appearance arranged months in advance. It carried layered symbolism. It bridged personal recovery and public responsibility. It linked royal history with present-day resilience. The 2026 BAFTAs will be remembered for the films honored and the speeches delivered. But they will also be remembered for the moment a future queen stepped back into the spotlight with grace, signaling that strength does not always roar. Sometimes it stands quietly, under bright lights, and lets its presence speak for itself. So, what do you think? Was Princess Catherine's BAFTAs return simply a dazzling comeback, or a quiet signal of a powerful new chapter for the monarchy? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.